Hi, everybody. Hello, hello. I hope everybody is having a wonderful Wednesday. I certainly am. It's been a really good week. The week's going great. Everything's going well. And I'm coming with a vlog today. I think this may be a two-parter. I may have two parts of something to say to you. But I'm going to be talking again. I'm doing a series. I love doing these series, talking about different stuff I'm reading and discovering, and different information I can share and knowledge I can share, and certainly stuff that you can share with me about things that I'm finding out and figuring out. I'd certainly appreciate any input you have and stuff, as long as you kind of stay on subject and on topic. I certainly appreciate you guys being out there and being in this with me and stuff. And so today I'm going to be talking again from the book Boundaries. Um, there you go. Boundaries by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend. And today I'm talking about going over, and I've been reading the book, and I'm a good ways through the book, almost to the second part of the third part of the book, also a section of the book, and it's really good. I mean, I read the first two chapters, and pretty much you could have been like, okay, I'm done. But they have more to say and more things to tell you, so it's even better. Um, but today we're going to be talking about boundaries, and that keeps the good things in and the bad things out. And today we're going to be talking about what exactly boundaries are. For boundaryless people, they don't know what boundaries are. And for people who violate people's boundaries, they don't know what boundaries are and stuff. And so I'm trying to give information on boundaries. Even if you have good boundaries, this is still a good book to read, even if you think you have good boundaries, because I'm discovering there are some things that I need to, kind of, um, buck up on when it comes to some of my boundaries and stuff. But for people who don't have boundaries or don't know what they are, and didn't get them established, never got taught what boundaries were, this is hopefully going to give you kind of a start off about boundaries. And you can read this book, or if you think you maybe need some help, if you read the book and think, okay, I think I need some deeper help or therapy, I certainly recommend that you do that and stuff, because this is a serious issue. I think it's a very serious issue for many Black women. We are exposed and seem to be in kind of a boundaryless community, or a community that wants to be boundaryless, a community that wants to invade your space and tell you what you should and should not do, and and all things like that. I'm talking particularly, about interracial dating, or things like that. It's too many people in your business, and they want you to go along to get along, instead of establishing what and who you are. And that's what we're going to start off today talking about. We're going to just start off just a little bit about what are these boundaries. What do you mean keep the good in and the bad out, and stuff. First of all, I want to tell you, boundaries are not walls. Walls keep everything out, good and bad. And that's not the point of having boundaries. Boundaries are, as defined in this book, a little bit more like fences. They have places where good things can come in. They have a gate that you can open up and let good things in. Stuff just doesn't invade, but you can certainly open up and let good things in. You're in control of what you let in and what you don't. You're in control of your boundaries. And I want you to feel that sense of power and control over your own boundary settings, because those are up to you. Boundaries are an invisible property line, and they show you what is your responsibility and what is someone else's responsibility. And last week, when I talked about the knapsack and the boulder, and stuff, and people wanting you to help them with their knapsacks and all that sort of stuff, that's what I mean. There are things that are certainly your responsibility, and stuff, and things that you need to be doing, but other things that are other people's responsibility, and you need to let them do that. You shouldn't be taking on other people's problems and drama, particularly when it's something that is really something they need to handle on their own. Like I say, there are lots of things that people need help, and we need help with. And so, when I separated from my husband, I was having a really hard time. I was going through panic and anxiety and stuff and some depression, and I was having a hard time, and I needed some help, some family support. And my family was there to support me. That was my boulder. When it was time for me to, go on with my life, move out, find another apartment, and stuff, start paying my bills, doing all that. That was my responsibility. Getting help for my panic and anxiety, that was my responsibility to do that. I couldn't just lay that at the feet of other people and make them responsible. I couldn't even lay that at the feet of my ex-husband and make him responsible. I was the one that was in control of doing something about that and getting some help and turning my life around. And so that's what I did. I took responsibility for myself. I took responsibility for some decisions I had been making, and I started making better choices to have a better life. Um, there are things, it's when we talk about boundaries, there's you and then there's not you. And then you have to figure out what that is. And we figure that out early in life. And next week when I talk about how boundaries are not established, what ends up happening when we come from families where people aren't establishing or helping us establish healthy boundaries. That all comes from childhood. So that's where you figure out what's me and what's not me. What's my responsibility and what's not my responsibility. And you have to make sure that you know what is your responsibility. Not everything. We are responsible to people and for ourselves. And there's a difference. We're not responsible for other people. I'm not responsible for how people think about me. I'm not responsible for how people feel about me. That's not my responsibility. I have responsibility to people, but not for people. I have responsibility for myself. I have to take care of my own business. I have to do the things that I need to do to make sure that Eugenia is okay, and stuff. I have to put gas in my own car. I have to get up, and when it's time for me to teach the 1 day a week, I have to get up and go to that job. I have to get prepared for teaching. I have to make sure that I take my insulin, for my diabetes and make sure my health care is taken care of. I can't sit that at somebody else's feet. Nobody else is responsible for that. I am. And when we get in the way of being responsible for other people, when we start taking on people's knapsacks and boulders, essentially, because some people want you to take them on both, knapsacks and boulders, what you do is you make people not suffer any consequences. And when I was young, one of the things I remember my mom saying all the time is, there's consequences for everything you do, good and bad. She was always very, there are consequences. So when we did stuff that we weren't supposed to do, there was consequences in my house. Nobody got saved, nobody got out of trouble, nothing like that. Whatever happened, happened. So if you did stuff that you weren't supposed to do, and maybe you were punished, maybe we got a spanking, maybe we missed something we wanted to go to or something like that, there were consequences. But there was also consequences when we did good stuff and did right stuff. Those things were reinforced. That that was really good, and we congratulate you. And when I was a little ballerina as a little girl, my family would come and watch my ballet. There was stuff for that too. So you have to remember that when you start stepping in every time somebody's about to face consequences, and people do this all the time. People do this for their teenagers, and people do this for their grown children, because for a lot of people, they do this for husbands and wives, because for a lot of people, they don't want to look bad. So they think that this other person that's related to them is somehow them. They haven't figured out what is them and what is not them. So they think this other person is them. And if somebody sees them as bad, then they'll see, if somebody sees somebody, I have a child, and somebody sees my child as bad, then somehow they'll think I'm bad too. But that's not the thing. You're not them. They're not you, and stuff. You don't have any responsibility for a grown child. I have grown family members too, and all of them don't always do the right thing. But I don't feel embarrassed about that. It doesn't have anything to do with me. They're not me. I'm not them, and stuff. I'm not responsible for what they do. What they do is not a reflection of me, and stuff. And so many people have grown people living in their house, grown people they're taking care of, they're paying bills for, they're saving every chance they can save, thinking that somehow that's going to make them better people and stuff. Or if I do this time, they're going to. But what happens is people who don't face consequences are happy, irresponsible people. They're always happy. Don't you notice how irresponsible people are always so happy? I mean, they're really because everybody else is taking care of everything for them. So why not be happy? I mean, you got it made. And, so you have to understand it's not your job to do that. It's not your job to save everything. Even when kids are little, or for a family member, for a husband or wife who has, that's not your job to do that all the time. It's to save them, because then people don't learn how to be responsible. And as much as we want to talk to irresponsible people and tell them, you need to be responsible, blah, 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 irresponsible people are not listening to you. Really, the thing is, irresponsible people are unwise. There's a reason they're irresponsible. It's because they're unwise. And unwise people are not going to take wise counsel. Okay? So when you start telling them stuff to do that's good for them, they're not even going to listen to you because they're unwise people. That's the reason they're in the place they are. Okay? And so the only thing that irresponsible people understand is consequences. You have to take yourself out of the game. You have to stop saving them, because they're not going to understand your explanations and your pleas and your begging for them to do right. All they will understand is consequences. And when we face consequences, usually we adjust behavior, because for a lot of people it's like, ooh, I don't like this. Yeah, when I would face consequences, even as an adult now, I do stuff sometimes and then I think, yeah, I don't like where I'm ending up here. Let me do something different the next time and stuff, so I don't end up with these consequences and stuff. But when you keep saving, when you keep jumping in, all people do is learn to be irresponsible. So what these boundaries do is let good in for you and leave bad out. You are not supposed to be, and I've said this before, you do not throw your pearls before swine. All the good things that you have, you don't give to unworthy people. Okay? All the stuff that you've been as a person blessed with, your home, your car, your job, your money, that you're stewards over, and all this stuff that, God is hoping that you use wisely, is not to be given to a fool. Okay? So when you do that, you are actually throwing your pearls before swine, which I don't do. I don't enable, and neither does God. I don't enable responsibility. I don't reward it. I'm not going over there talking about it. I'm not trying to, tell people. I'm not telling people nothing personally. I've told you, I don't tell grown folks what to do. They're going to do what they want anyway. It's best to just let them face consequences and stuff. So I don't do that. All the stuff that I have and been blessed with, I don't give to people who aren't worthy of it, and we have to know that we have boundaries. There are things that are going to happen that as you sow, so shall you reap. This is biblical principle. That's old. That's been happening for a long time. And when you get in the way of people reaping what they sow, then they miss the whole lesson. They don't get the reward. They don't get the punishment, but they don't get the reward either. Every time you save someone, you take away their power and render them powerless. You also keep them from being rewarded for the good things that they do. And I don't think people even think about that. They think they're saving them from bad stuff. But you know what? You're also saving them from good stuff. So it's best you just leave people alone and where they are. If somebody has a burden, that's one thing. But if somebody can't, takes their gas money and spends it on a pair of shoes, I'm not giving you gas money. That's not okay. I'm not giving you gas money. You know, if that happens, it's not my responsibility to now give you gas money for unwise decisions. So think about what it is that you're giving or what it is that you're setting up when you talk about boundaries with people. Think hard about that. Think about what people are asking you for, when they're talking about, well, you need to help me. I mean, you got some money, you got a job. I mean, you sit over there in that nice house and stuff. You need to think about what it is that you're giving to someone who is irresponsible and what it is you're taking away from them when you give it. It's something for you to think about, to ponder, and to wonder on. Okay, and stuff. And so it's a really important lesson. There's lots of examples of what boundaries are, and we're going to talk about some of those boundaries. The best and first boundary is my skin. My skin is a boundary. It keeps good stuff in, hopefully, and bad stuff out. It helps me. Okay, it's one of the things that it's one of the ways that people can really be violated. And I don't know if I feel violated when people are too close to me that are strangers. That violates my boundaries to me. People, if I don't know you, if you touch me, and stuff, that violates boundaries, and that's not okay with me. So usually when people do that, I ask them not to touch me, and stuff, because that's a violation of boundaries. And black women know, black women with natural hair probably know when people touch your hair, that's a violation of your boundaries. And you can certainly speak up and say, it's not okay for you to touch my head. I don't know you, and stuff. So that's a violation of boundaries. Your words are boundaries. And the most basic of the boundaries with words is no. Boy, if we could say no. If we could say no. If we could say no. If we could say no more. For stuff that we really don't want to do, don't need to do. People are so busy saying yes and then later on resenting the yes. Why do that to yourself? Just say no. Just say what you mean, and stuff. We're so worried about people being mad at us, and people are going to be mad at you no matter what. So just say no. Just say what you mean, and stop feeling guilty about helping people that, don't want to do for themselves. Okay? Um, and there's your lines of geographical distance that is part of your boundaries. One of the things that you need to make sure that you need to get away from bad stuff. Just sometimes, and I hear a lot of women talk about that. Black women who say they're leaving, the black community, the hoods and the ghettos. They're getting out. You know what? That's a good thing. That's a wise thing. That's something that God actually wants you to do. He wants you to put geographical distance between yourself and evil. Okay? So, and it says you sometimes have to flee from evil. And that's just what you need to do. Sometimes you need to get away from bad things and bad people, and stuff. And it can help you establish some boundaries. Sometimes you literally, that neighborhood, that city, that whatever, you need to get up and get the hell up out of there. Okay? As fast as you can. Get out of Dodge and stuff. So that's a good thing. Get out of that neighborhood, get out of that house, get out of that city, and and stuff, and move and get some geographical distance between you and the evil. You're keeping bad out. That's a way to set a boundary. Um, time away from people sometimes. And I know people think, oh, I don't want to be away from my family, or I don't want to be away from my friends, or I don't want to, sometimes time apart is just what you need to get some boundaries set up. Time is a definite boundary. Time away, time off from people, time away from projects and things like that. Stuff that's sapping your energy, stuff that's sucking out of you and not giving back and stuff, that's definitely a good boundary. Emotional distance. And this is something I had to do after I separated from my ex and was getting a divorce. I needed some time to get myself together. I was an emotional wreck. I was an emotional mess and stuff. And I couldn't move into some new relationship being that much of a mess from that. I didn't want to take that in. So I had to take time off. I had to get some help. I had to, do some meditation. I had to do some introspection. I needed that time off. Okay. And it's important to have it. You need to take it. If you're getting out of a bad abusive relationship or something with somebody, take that time. You need that time. I don't understand. I know of many people who just jump right back into another relationship right after they really got out of bad one. I'm thinking, who does that? And stuff. That's not healthy. Okay. And that's not a good way to set up any boundaries for yourself. You just end up being abused in the next relationship because you haven't taken time off to get yourself together. And you need other people to help you set boundaries. You know what the best thing is? Our need for relationship is the basic one. We're made for relationships. That's what we're made. We're made for it. Now I'm not just talking about marriage and love relationship. I'm talking about relationships with other human beings, friends, family, whatever. We're made for relationships, but we're made for good relationships. We're made for supportive relationships. And being in a good relationship with someone who's supportive, with people who are supportive and helpful, also can help you to establish boundaries and figure out that you can get love without being abused, without this horrible sacrifice, and stuff of your dignity and everything, without sacrificing who you are, without being responsible for another human being, okay, and stuff. And so it's important that you do those things. Consequences. And just remember what I said just about consequences. Consequences are important for you as a person, okay? Everybody has to face consequences. And so stop saving people from consequences. Stop getting in between people and their consequences. Let people, sometimes we have to let people, as I said last time, have problems. Sometimes we have to let people suffer a little bit. They're not going to die, okay? Some people need to suffer. And I've had to suffer myself sometimes after making some bad decisions. But you know what? Those were my decisions, okay? And it was okay. I didn't die from suffering. Usually I learned something and didn't make the mistake again and stuff, And so it's important. These are truths. And there's always consequences. There's always consequences to everything you do. And, it says right there, right in the Bible, if you don't work, you don't eat. And so that's a consequence. And so for the consequence of being lazy, people don't get to eat, and stuff. And so it's important for you to understand that whoever this is, that is not working and maybe living in your home or not paying their bills or, not being responsible, not saving their money or whatever, and they're living in your house and they're eating your food and all that stuff. They're not facing any consequences. They're not facing anything, okay? You are. And they are happy and irresponsible. And you are responsible and usually miserable, okay? And so it is time for you to set up some boundaries, to know what they are and what they do, okay? And the next part, we're going to talk about what's within your boundary place, okay? What's within your boundary space and stuff, what it is that you do have that you are supposed to be doing and things like that. What's supposed to be happening with you and stuff. I'm going to save this until next week, and so you'll come back and we'll talk more about boundaries. All right. Bye, guys.